Welcome. Tonight, let's drift back to a time of wind and steppe, of silence and storms, of hoofbeats that echoed across empires. This is the story of the Mongol Empire, a vast and often misunderstood world where daily life could be as unforgiving as the terrain, and where greatness was built not only on conquest, but on an intricate balance of survival, belief, and adaptation. But as you listen, there's no need to worry about remembering dates or names. Let the steady rhythm of time carry you. Let your thoughts soften as we gently unfold the stories, from the harsh duties of camel herders in the Gobi to the dark silence that surrounds a vanished tomb. Each segment will guide you further into the past, and perhaps into rest. So close your eyes if you like, settle in, and imagine yourself on the edge of the great steppe, where survival was never guaranteed, and history whispered through the wind. Imagine yourself waking before dawn. The air is thin and cool, but not for long. A blanket of silence wraps the endless expanse of desert, broken only by the slow, shifting grumble of drowsy camels. You are a camel tender, young, weather-worn, and dusted with the powdered grit of yesterday's wind. In the Gobi Desert, there is no shade and very little mercy. The sky stretches endlessly above you, vast and pale blue in the morning, harsh and white by noon, and then a deepening purple as night falls again. But in between, there is only work, your task, simple. In theory, tend to the caravan animals. Keep them moving, keep them watered, keep them from wandering into the shifting mirage of nothingness. But here, nothing is truly simple. The wind comes in waves, not the comforting breeze of a coastal morning, but dry, stinging gusts that peel at your cheeks and chap your lips until they crack and bleed without drama, without announcement. You wrap your face in cloth, but the sand still finds its way in, between your teeth, in your ears. It settles on your tongue like powdered stone. It is the taste of the Gobi, and it stays with you. The camels are temperamental. They groan and spit. They stall, squat, or collapse without warning. Some are sick, others simply tired. You coax them with soft clicks and low murmurs, the same patterns you've learned from your elders, a language made not of words, but rhythm, tone, expectation. Water must be rationed carefully. A misstep, one careless leak or forgotten skin, can cost lives. You learn to drink only when allowed, to walk with the slow, swaying gait of a beast of burden, to become part of the caravan. Not apart from it, the discipline is strict. Your overseer, often a soldier or seasoned herder, carries not just a staff, but authority. He measures your usefulness by the health of your camels. A limping beast, that's your fault. A lost animal, that's your punishment. Consequences are rarely spoken aloud. They arrive, instead, as silence, exclusion, or correction. But even so, there is a rhythm. You rise before the sun. You load the packs. You walk beside the animals. Hour after hour, you pause only when ordered. You sleep lightly, and when night comes, the stars bloom above you in cold silence. There are no cities here, no walls, no inns, just the low hum of tethered camels, the scrape of your own breath, and the dull ache in your limbs. Yet, this life is essential. You carry salt, grain, cloth, letters, even sacred relics. Without you, without your camels, the empire cannot move. Not its armies, not its traders, not its messengers. You are the lifeline, and yet no one remembers your name. No one writes it down. No one carves it into stone. Only the steppe remembers the soft prints of your sandaled feet. Only the wind remembers your voice, low and calm, guiding the beasts eastward. Only history forgets you, and so you live, you endure, you survive, but just barely. Gentle transitional phrase to signal the next phase. As the caravan moves deeper into the desert, let us now shift from the daily drudgery of survival to a moment in history that sent shockwaves across the known world. A city silenced, a vengeance remembered, a siege that still echoes in dusty chronicles. When you're ready, we'll begin the story of the Siege of Nishapur. Now, let us drift eastward to the Persian plateau, to the year 1221, and to a city called Nishapur. Imagine this place not as it is now, a quiet city of faded memory, but as it once was. Bustling, learned, and proud, it stood as a jewel of the Eastern Islamic world, a center of art, poetry, theology, and trade. The air there carried the scent of ink, parchment, spices, and beneath the domes of pale stone, scholars debated the cosmos, while craftsmen etched delicate script into silver and brass. But now, close your eyes and picture the horizon darkening, not from storm clouds, but from something slower, heavier, a cloud of dust kicked up by hooves. The Mongols were coming. They had already crossed rivers and deserts. Cities had fallen, not always by siege or battle, but sometimes through surrender, negotiation, or fear. History tells us that the seeds of tragedy began with the death of a single man, a Mongol prince and relative of Genghis Khan. He had been killed during an earlier skirmish outside the city walls, and though Genghis had continued eastward, his general Subutai remained behind, waiting, watching. And then came Tolui, the fourth son of Genghis Khan, tasked with finishing what had begun. The siege was swift, perhaps a matter of days, perhaps a few more. Sources differ, as they often do in times of smoke and fire. Imagine the defenders atop the city walls, the clatter of arrows, the dull thud of siege engines against stone, the anxious prayers in hidden corners, the final pleas for mercy. When the walls fell, what followed was not mercy, not restraint, but vengeance. We will not dwell on the manner of what happened, only its impact. Chroniclers speak of silence, of entire quarters emptied, of dust settling over streets where footsteps no longer echoed, of a city whose libraries no longer opened their doors. Some accounts, colored by legend and time, speak of Tolui ordering the deaths of nearly the entire population. They speak of his wife, who allegedly asked that not even the cats and dogs be spared. Whether this is true or later embellishment, we cannot say with certainty. But what we do know is that the name Nishapur would forever carry a shadow. And yet, time is persistent. The city would be rebuilt, people would return, markets would open again. But the memory, it lingered, not as a tale told in triumph, but as a warning. To resist the Mongols was to gamble with oblivion. And so, Nishapur stands in the pages of history, not just as a place on a map, but as a silence that followed the sound of hooves, a silence born of empire and retribution, a silence that still seems to echo, if you sit quietly enough. Now, let the dust settle, let the fires cool, and as the night grows deeper, let us turn to a mystery, not of conquest, but of something lost, a secret buried so deeply that no one has yet unearthed it. Let us search for the resting place of Genghis Khan. Now, let us leave the shattered walls of Nishapur behind, let the fires smolder into memory, and follow the wind northward, back across the deserts, across the rivers, to the green slopes of Mongolia, where silence has covered something for nearly 800 years. This is the story of what was never found, the tomb of Genghis Khan. You've likely heard his name before. Genghis Khan, the founder of the largest contiguous empire in human history, a man both revered and feared, who united warring tribes into a single, thunderous force, who crossed mountains and deserts to bend kingdoms to his will, who ruled not from a golden throne, but from the saddle of a horse. And yet, for all the chronicles that tell of his conquests, for all the empires no one knows exactly where he was buried. Imagine that, a man who reshaped continents, vanished into the earth without a trace. There are stories, of course, many stories. One says he was buried in secret by a small group of loyal men, who were then killed. To preserve the secret, another claims that the funeral procession trampled over the land to erase any signs of digging. Some versions tell of trees planted atop the grave, of rivers diverted to hide it beneath running water, of horses turned loose to graze and disguise the disturbed soil. All of these accounts have one thing in common. They are veiled in deliberate mystery. The burial was not for glory. It was not for worship. It was for silence. In Mongol tradition, the body was not to be displayed. There were no pyramids, no towering mausoleums, only earth, and a return to it. And so, Genghis Khan, who had walked with them, who had sent messages across 10,000 miles of steppe, disappeared into the land that had birthed him. His resting place has never been conclusively found. Not for lack of trying. Over the past century, many have searched. Archaeologists, adventurers, governments, some have scoured the Khenti Mountains, a remote, forested region in northeastern Mongolia, long held a sacred ground. Others have used satellites, ground-penetrating radar data analysis from orbit, but still nothing. No tomb, no grave goods, no bones. The Mongolian government has often restricted excavations in potential burial regions, in part out of cultural respect. Many in Mongolia believe the site, wherever it may be, should remain untouched. A sacred secret, protected by time. And perhaps they are right, because sometimes mystery itself becomes part of the legacy. What would we gain by opening the grave? A crown? A sword? A skull? Or would we lose something more subtle? The silence, the dignity, the vastness of not knowing. As you picture the winds brushing through tall grasses in a high, quiet valley, perhaps Genghis Khan lies beneath them, not under stone, not behind a gate, but surrounded by the breath of the land he once ruled. A Khan returning to dust, unmarked, undisturbed, and, in his own way, eternal. And now, let us leave the shadows of lost kings. Let us step out of secrecy and into the warm, felt-covered sanctuary of a Mongol queen. There, within the gentle curves of a traveling home, we'll glimpse a different side of this empire. Not of war or tombs, but of influence, diplomacy, and quiet, commanding power. Now, let us step quietly through the flapping folds of thick felt into the heart of a Mongol gar, a circular dwelling that stands against wind, rain, and time. The smoke hole above is open, letting in the cool morning light. The air smells faintly of warm milk, wood smoke, and sun-dried wool. Outside, the wind hums across the steppe. But here, it is still. This is no ordinary ger. Its furnishings are fine. The floor covered in soft rugs, the walls hung with patterned textiles, golden threaded robes lie neatly folded in chests of carved cedar. A silver basin catches light in the corner, and in the place of honor sits a woman of quiet authority. You are in the presence of a Mongol queen, Not a queen in the European sense, draped in jewels, confined to palaces, but a queen of the steppe, a mobile, commanding figure, both respected and feared. Someone whose influence, though often overlooked in chronicles of conquest, ran deep through the veins of empire. Her name may have been Bert or Sorgatani. History holds many names, though not always the details. But across generations, Mongol women, particularly royal ones, held far more power than many of their contemporaries across the world. They advised, they negotiated, they commanded. In times of war, they guarded the heart of the camp. In times of peace, they ensured the lineage of power remained intact. And here, within the walls of Hergare, decisions are made with measured calm. Outside, herds are tended. Caravans depart. Messengers ride hard between distant settlements. But inside, she listens to reports, weighs alliances, prepares letters to distant courts, sealed with the great Khan's mark. In many ways, she is the still point in a moving empire. She knows how to read the signs in a storm cloud, how to assess the health of a horse at a glance. She knows which noble families are loyal, and which hold old grudges beneath their courteous bows. She may be a regent, ruling on behalf of a child heir, or a consort, governing in her husband's absence, or a dowager, wielding the soft, subtle power that comes with age and memory. Mongol queens were not cloistered. They rode horses. They held land. They issued orders in their own name. Their gers became courts, not grand halls of marble, but circles of trust, surrounded by guards, scholars, and attendants. Here, decisions were made that could ripple across thousands of miles. Here, cultures met, Persian advisors, Chinese administrators, Slavic envoys, all woven into the fabric of empire. And yet, it is quiet here. There is no shouting, no displays of excess, just the soft clink of a tea bowl, the rustle of silk, the low tones of conversation, spoken in a tongue shaped by wind and fire. You sit on the floor across from her. You don't speak unless spoken to, but you watch. She is focused, measured. She wears her role lightly, but no one in this encampment doubts her strength. And when the sun sets, and the gare glows from within like a lantern against the steppe, she will rest for a few hours before beginning again. In this world, power does not come with spectacle. It comes with responsibility and a lifetime of observation. And now, as the light fades across the grasslands, as the last embers in the hearth glow red and soft, we come to the end of this journey. You've walked with camel tenders beneath the scorching sun. You've stood outside city walls as history turned. You've searched for what was lost, and sat quietly in the circle of power. And perhaps, now, with the wind still whispering through time, you can rest. You are not on the steppe. You are not under siege. You are safe, warm, and far from the dust and burden of empires. Let the past drift away, carried on the wind of sleep, and let the quiet of history hold you gently through the night.